Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we, take some really interesting source materials and pull out the key stuff for you. Basically, your shortcut to getting up to speed.
hmm
Today, we're diving into the Bon tradition of Tibet. It's ancient, fascinating, and we're focusing on the collected revelations of this one figure, bDe Chen Glingpa. He was around in the 19th century.
And our source for this is essentially a catalog, a detailed list of all his revealed works.
Okay, so Bon, just quickly, for context, it's a spiritual tradition in Tibet, really old, maybe even older than Buddhism there in some ways. It has its own founder, Ston Rab.
Exactly. And the tradition says his teaching spread really wide across many countries.
So our mission today, using this catalog, what are we trying to figure out?
We want to get a handle on what's in these collected revelations by bDe Chen Glingpa, why they're significant. We'll look at, who he was connected to, what kinds of writings are actually in this collection.
Got it. Okay, so let's start with the man himself, bDe Chen Glingpa, born 1833, died 1870, and he's called a treasure revealer, a ston.
Yes.
What does that actually mean, being a ston in the Bon tradition? What's the significance?
Well, it's a really crucial concept. The Goiterstein tradition is, it's how the lineage sort of renews itself. It allows timeless wisdom to emerge again, but in ways that are relevant for, new times, new eras.
So it's not just finding old stuff.
Not just finding, no. It's discovery, but also reinterpretation, reapplication. These people, Goiterstens, they're believed to uncover hidden treasures, Götterma.
And these Wiederma, they can be texts.
Texts, yes, but also ritual objects or even just profound spiritual insights, things hidden in the past, basically waiting for the right time, the right person to be revealed.
Okay, and the catalog gives us some key moments for him, like when he was just 16.
Yeah.
1848.
Yeah, that's a big one. He supposedly received this yellow scroll from a maiden. The thinking is she was probably an emanation of Major Bon goddess Majis Fried Pyre Bijamo.
Wow, 16. And then the same year, something else happened.
Yes, a dream vision.
Yeah.
This time of Padmasambhava.
Padmasambhava. But he's huge in Tibetan Buddhism.
Exactly. That's one of the interesting overlaps here. In this dream, Padmasambhava apparently gave him insight into Ardizog's Chenpo, the great perfection.
The great perfection. That's about like the inherent enlightenment in everyone.
Essentially, yes. The idea that our fundamental nature is already perfect and enlightened. So quite a profound insight to get, especially so young, and from a figure often associated more with Buddhism.
That really is an early start. What does that suggest, him having a vision of Padmasambhava?
Well, it could suggest a few things. Maybe a shared mystical understanding, or perhaps just a very pragmatic spiritual environment in 19th century Tibet where powerful figures were recognized across traditions. It points to a kind of dynamic exchange happening.
Okay, so the next year, 1849, his uncle gets involved.
Right. His uncle transmits several important Ardizog's Chen cycles to him. The catalog lists things like the Bru Galao, a Trid Chenmo, the Ardizog's Chen Yang Zortziklong Chen.
Okay, don't need the full technical names, but what were these cycles generally about?
Their core teachings.
Yeah.
Really focused on the direct path, realizing enlightenment by recognizing your own primordial, already awake state. Getting these teachings would have been a crucial foundation for him becoming a Greiterston later.
Makes sense. Then 1853 sounds like another really key year. He finds a treasure near his house.
A big one. It included a golden egg.
A golden egg.
Yeah, apparently containing long life pills.
Yeah.
And also a treasure text, a Greitershog.
What was in the text?
Parts of the Mankagro thugs tig the heart drops of the sky dancers, which is linked to another cycle, the heart drops of Yush's Emsho Dimgyal.
Okay, and there was more.
Yes, also a prophecy connected to this discovery. And he received a secret name in a vision that year.
A secret name.
Major Jer Young Drung Bedud Dull Thogs, Med Ret Sol. Sounds quite powerful, doesn't it? Suggests something about his spiritual power or destiny.
Definitely. What's interesting there is the mix of physical objects like pills and the egg alongside a text and prophecy and a name.
It really underscores how holistic these discoveries were seen to be. It wasn't just about texts. And the name and prophecy, they really cement the sacred importance of it all for him.
And the discoveries kept coming after that.
Oh, yeah. The catalog mentions more finds in the following years, statues, more texts, even things like stupas, and lists pointing to future revelations.
So it was an ongoing process for him.
Absolutely. Like in 1855, the Ordian thugs Tig. And in 1857, more treasures linked again to Padmasambhava and Yesh's Mitchell Horgel. It really paints a picture of him continuously accessing and bringing forth this wisdom.
It reinforces that idea of the tradition not being static, but alive, accessible.
Exactly.
Then 1859, another significant vision.
Yes, this one apparently led to a really profound experience for him, like total spiritual clarity. And in that state, he recognized a figure named Kyongsbril Seng's Gling Pa as being one of his previous incarnations.
Wow, so his own spiritual lineage was being revealed to him.
Precisely. And connecting himself to a recognized line of enlightened figures within Bon would, further solidify his role and legitimacy as a revealer.
And he also met someone important that year.
Yes, Kun Bazang Gangklong Yang's another Bon Po figure. They exchanged teachings and transmissions. The Catalogue mentions one called the Zog's Chenzang Thalma, which itself was a revelation from an earlier gTer ston, Rig Dizinar God Elam.
So sharing and receiving teachings, even among revealers.
It highlights how interconnected these different Bon Po lineages were. They weren't totally isolated. Treasure revealers often enrich the broader tradition this way.
Okay, fast forward a bit to 1864. He encounters the Rizmed movement. Now, that was an interesting time in Tibet, right? This non-sectarian push.
Hugely important, yes. A movement trying to appreciate and draw from different traditions without getting bogged down in sectarian disputes.
And who did he meet from that movement?
Some major figures. Dieter Ten Gling Pa, another famous treasure revealer, who actually gave bDe Gling Pa another name, Riggs Jean Kungrald Jisan Bartsal.
So many names.
Yes. And he also met Scabs Mungunken Brexy, that's Jamian Kansi Wangpo, and Kong Sprol Blogros Matthias, both absolutely central figures in the Rizmed movement and Tibetan Buddhism generally.
It's amazing to see him interacting with these Buddhist masters.
It really is. It shows he was engaged with the whole religious landscape of his time. There was mutual respect. The Catalogue even notes he gave something called Garuda pills to Kong Sprol later in 1874.
So these interactions were quite substantial.
They seem to be. It points towards that fluidity and exchange we talked about.
Okay, let's just recap his names then. It sounds like layers of identity.
Kind of. There was his outer name, Mi Gur Che Debang Sijeng Skags Gregsba.
Okay.
His inner name, the one from Yinchug Gir Glingpa, Rigzin Kungrol Ji Sangbardsal.
Right.
And that secret name from the 1853 vision. Shi Young Drung Be Dead Dolfogs Midderdsel.
It does feel like it reflects stages or aspects of his spiritual journey and who carried on his lineage.
His main heir, the Catalogue identifies, was Bist and Dindrin Chen, so the teachings were passed on.
Okay, so we have this really dynamic figure interacting across traditions, revealing treasures, which leads to this huge collection of writings. What does the Catalogue tell us about what's actually in there, the contents?
Well, first off, it's vast. The Catalogue clearly indicates multiple volumes. It suggests a really broad scope.
And given his background, I guess lots of Zog's Chen stuff.
Unsurprisingly, yes. Lots on Zog's Chen practices. Both things he received, like from his uncle, and his own revelations, like that Heart Drops of the Sky dancers we mentioned.
We also see tantric cycles mentioned, like Kunbazang Nam Ka Udral Po cycle. What does tantric cycle generally involve in Bon?
It involves, well, powerful methods aiming for rapid transformation. Think complex rituals, visualizing deities, reciting mantras, receiving initiations, all designed to work with your innate potential and transform negative emotions quickly to realize enlightenment.
Okay. And the collection covers lots of deities. Peaceful, wrathful.
Yes, rituals and practices for a whole range of deities, including Majigsrid Payarijalmo, that important goddess. It's like a complete spiritual toolkit.
A toolkit.
Yeah, different deities represent different aspects of enlightened mind or energy. Practitioners connect with them for different reasons, maybe cultivating compassion, maybe overcoming obstacles, things like that.
There are also texts about protective deities. Mamayang Sning Duspa is mentioned. What's their job?
Protectors, basically. They guard the teachings, the practitioners, the whole community from negative stuff, internal obstacles, external problems. They help create a safe space for practice.
And interestingly, autobiographies, even secret ones.
Yeah, that's quite something. Imagine reading a first-hand account of these visions, these treasure discoveries.
What kind of insights could you get from those?
Oh, invaluable insights. Not just life story details, but the subjective experience, the visions, maybe difficulties faced, the whole process of revelation from his perspective.
The Catalogue also lists prophetic texts and an index of treasure sites. What's that about?
It's almost like he's leaving a map for the future. Prophecies might guide future events or how teachings unfold. The index could literally point future Gritterstones to where more treasures might be hidden.
Wow, okay. The range seems huge. Specific practices, too, like inner alchemy.
Yep.
Cuddlin.
Yes, bCudlin. Also, consciousness transference at death, Phoba, fire offerings, Spyan Sreg. It's very comprehensive, covering purification, long life, transformation, helping others at death. Very practical applications.
And it gets even more diverse. Ritual dances, Cham.
Mm-hmm. Chan dances, important in Tibetan traditions.
Practices for subduing demons.
Okay.
Texts on medicine.
Yes, including specific remedies. The catalog mentions things for like mad dog bites, poisons.
Right, very down-to-earth problems.
Exactly. And then methods for capturing yetis.
Capturing yetis, seriously, that's in his collected works.
Apparently so. It certainly adds an intriguing layer, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
It kind of reminds us these traditions often engaged with, well, the whole spectrum of life in the world around them. Spiritual concerns, yes, but practical challenges too, even mysterious ones.
And basic ritual stuff too. Offerings like Ravastorma and Bisang, ritual tools like the fur paw dagger.
All there. It just shows how important ritual and symbolic actions are in Bon for connecting with the sacred and, transforming reality. Every facet seems covered.
So let's shift to the lineages mentioned in these texts. It seems clear he saw himself as part of a very long line.
Oh, definitely.
What's interesting about how he connects back to the really ancient Bon figures?
Well, the texts explicitly link him back to the founder, Stonpog Jan Rab himself, to other key figures like Jaishin La Udkar, Dranpanamka, the four great scholars.
And why is making that link so important?
It establishes legitimacy. It grounds his own revelations in the deepest roots of the tradition. It says, this isn't just something new I made up. It flows from the source.
And the ancient kingdom of Zhangzong comes up.
Yes, Zhangzhong in western Tibet. It's seen as this crucial historical heartland for Bon. Many teachings are thought to have passed through there, originally from a mythical pure land called Stagzig Olmo Lungring.
So the texts trace these transmission lines.
Often, yes. The catalog notes they detail lineages connecting bDe Chen Glingpa back through various figures, sometimes divine, sometimes human, like Kuntubyanampo, Chimetub Futjor Sangba Duspa, Stagla Mebor, Monkar Grod Oldan Barma. It's like mapping a spiritual family tree.
A spiritual ancestry, yeah. It gives that sense of continuity, of authenticity.
Precisely. It shows this reliable chain of wisdom passed down.
And here's where that Buddhist interaction pops up again, right inside his own lineages.
Right. Figures like Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo and Khantrul Lodro Te, these major Buddhist masters he met, they actually get mentioned within the transmission lineages in some of his Bon works.
Alongside the ancient Bon figures.
Yes, which is quite remarkable.
What does that tell us about 19th century Tibet?
It speaks volumes about that interconnectedness, especially with the Rizmed movement influencing things. It suggests a real fluidity, maybe mutual validation, certainly a significant level of exchange and shared understanding between Bon and Buddhist streams at that time, at least for figures like him.
Okay, let's pull out a few specific things from the catalog just to really highlight how intriguing this stuff is for you, the listener.
Sure. Well, that discovery of the long life pills with the text supposedly marked with Padmasambhava's fingerprints. That's a pretty vivid image, isn't it?
It really is. Bridging traditions, physical and textual.
And, of course, we have to mention again the texts on how to capture yetis.
Can't forget the yetis.
It just reminds you of the sheer breadth of what was considered relevant knowledge.
And that mingling of Bon and Buddhist influences, both in his life and in the texts themselves, that feels really key.
It's definitely a defining feature of his work and that whole period.
Plus, just the incredible range, high philosophy, like Artisog's Chen on one hand.
And practical things like remedies for illnesses, dealing with weather, on the other.
It really underscores how comprehensive these teachings aim to be.
Absolutely. A holistic view where spiritual life and practical life weren't really separate.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. What are the main takeaways for our listener about bDe Chen Glingpa and his collected revelations?
Well, in a nutshell, bDe Chen Glingpa was clearly a major figure, a really significant treasure revealer in 19th century Bon.
Okay.
His collected revelations, as we've seen from the catalog, are incredibly rich and diverse. They cover everything from profound spiritual practices and philosophy
Through rituals, deities, protectors.
and even practical life concerns. And crucially, these revelations feel deeply rooted in ancient Bon lineages, connecting him way back.
But at the same time, he was plugged into his own time.
Exactly. He was interacting with the wider religious world, especially those key Buddhist figures and the Rizmed movement.
Hmm.
And that interaction is even reflected in his revealed texts. It's a fascinating blend.
It really does give you a unique window into this world of, well, hidden teachings, dedicated practitioners bringing them out.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a final thought for you to consider. Think about that act itself of revealing hidden knowledge. How does that shape a tradition? How does it keep it alive?
Mhm.
What does it suggest about how wisdom evolves or maybe gets rediscovered over time?
Mhm.
And taking it broader, what other kinds of hidden treasures, what knowledge might still be out there in any field, really, just waiting for the right time, the right person to bring it into the light?
That's a great question to ponder, something to think about long after you've finished listening. We hope you'll do that. And maybe even explore Bon or these treasure revealers a bit more on your own.
Yeah.
Until our next deep dive, thanks for joining us.